So I'm going to start off with Corey with this. The NFL has expanded the playoffs to 7 teams the past 2 years. So the first time since 1982, there were 3 blowouts. Right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4 blowouts. So, I mean, it could have been 5 for real. That's just me. I don't think Dallas really won it. I know it was 23-16, but it should have been. It was 23-7 for a while. So that's 5 blowouts. All right. So Corey, was it a good idea for the NFL to do the 17 playoffs?
I'm not so sure that it is.
Oh.
I think there's 2 aspects to this decision: the playoff games themselves and the end of the regular season. This year did create a few more interesting games at the end of the season in the last week of the year because there were so many teams in contention, especially because the AFC had a lot of teams stacked.
Okay.
But that's also largely only because the Colts collapsed against the Jaguars. Had the Colts done what they were supposed to, beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, then the only other game that would have mattered for the AFC playoffs is Chargers-Raiders Sunday night. Nothing else in the 1 or 4 o'clock window would have mattered.
That's deep.
And last season, the extra playoff spot actually had the opposite effect on Week 17 games, the last week of the year. Since there was only one team with a bye, and those byes were wrapped up going into that week, teams didn't care about the last game of the season because the 2 through 4 seeds knew they weren't getting a bye, so they treated it as their bye week. Sat guys. It ended up with a lot of uncompetitive football, whereas had it been a normal 16 playoff, you would have had a lot of teams having to play that final week.
Okay.
Then look at the playoff games themselves. We've had now 4 playoff games involving a 7 seed. One of those 4 games has been good. Last year, you had Colts at Buffalo, which actually ended up being the best game of Wild Card Weekend last year.
That was a good game. And the Colts were the 7 seed?
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
But
it's a great game.
The other game last year, Saints-Bears, was not a good game. The 2 games this year were basically bye weeks. Like they were over by halftime.
Yep.
So I think the NFL needs to be careful here because they could end up like the NBA playoffs. You know, the first round of the NBA playoffs always has a couple of really bad series because the 8 seed, 7 seed, sometimes as high as 6, just don't really have any business being there. So you have a couple of series that, have to be played for 4 games, have to go on. It takes 2 weeks, but there's nothing competitive to it. There's no reason to watch.
Yeah.
And I mean, who knows? Next year, maybe a 7 seed will run the table, make me eat crow and win it all. But I feel like the number of years that you're going to actually have a 7 seed that is competitive and truly deserves a spot in the playoffs is going to be significantly smaller than the number of years where the 7 seed just has no claim and probably should not be there at all.
Okay. Greg, I know you. Go ahead, get it out. I know what you're about to say. Go ahead, break it out. Break it out.
I'm still on board about the 8 teams. Like I'm still on board with. I don't want to see nobody with a bye. Like if you look at last year's playoffs, it's the first time they had 7 teams. The 7 seed. I mean, the Bills Colts game was competitive as a 2-7. Even the Bears and the Saints game, it wasn't that big of a like if the I don't know who the guy was, the wide receiver that dropped the ball in the end zone on the pass from Mr. Trubisky, but if he catches the ball, right? Yeah. If he catches the ball, that's a different game. Like the game is not. It was only 21-9. It wasn't like it was 35-3 or something like that. But if he catches the ball, who knows what could happen in that game?
17, 18. Well, yes, 18.
It wasn't entertaining.
They're going to win the game, but I'm saying like it would be a lot closer, and the score. I mean, who knows what could happen in that game? But even still, like you look at this year, there was a 4-5 blowout. There was a 3-6 blowout. So I mean, blowouts. It just happens. And last year there was also a blowout. The Rams Seahawks game was a blowout last year. Even though at the end the Seahawks cut it to 10, they were down.
It was
that
a
game.
blowout. Yeah, that was bad.
The 3-6 Steelers and the Browns was a blowout. The Steelers kind of came back, but they were down like 30.
It was
35.
Yeah, I turned it.
It just happens. Like I think it's just something that just happens. Like now, if you look at this year, if the Colts had got in at the 8th seed and they were playing the Titans, and the Titans they wouldn't have had Derrick Henry at all. He wouldn't have been able to go. I don't think so. I think that week helps him.
That would have been
back.
a good game.
So Colts playing the Titans without Derrick Henry.
A good game.
I don't know. I'm probably rocking with the Colts on that one. But even though they lost the first 2 games in the regular season, and you look at, I mean, obviously on
who was it? Would have been the Saints in Green Bay?
Yeah, it'd have been the Saints in Green Bay.
Ooh.
I mean, the
I
Saints
don't know. The Saints. I mean, the Green Bay wins that, but it's just Saints aren't no easy out.
They're not. But I mean,
easy out.
They wouldn't have Jameis at that time. They have Taysom Hill. Their whole wide receiver core is all crazy. The defense is solid though, but
yeah,
and defense,
Aaron Rodgers might have got out, but it's not going to be no blowout.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, you never know,
man.
But I mean, you look at this year, like the matchup a lot of people were talking about was Bill Belichick going up against I guess the Bills and Josh Allen, and the Bills got they routed them. Like
we all called that though. We all called it was going to be a blowout.
That's a 4 or 5. I don't know about 47-17 blowout.
I didn't know about 47. Yeah, 47.
Yeah, nobody called that.
Nobody. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a low scoring game, at least 10 points maybe, but like they put it on them. So I mean, and then the other matchup, it was a 3-6. The Rams and the Cardinals. These 2 teams know each other very well.
That was surprising.
The Cardinals couldn't even really get out of their own side of the field. So I mean, I think it just depends on the matchup. Like I said, I would still love to see 8 teams in the playoffs.
You would do 16. No, you would do
games,
16
and I would do
games, no bye.
No, and then there's no bye. Like I don't understand. I mean, I don't.
They might go to it, Craig. They might. They're trending toward it. They're trending.
That benefit a team like Tennessee because Tennessee gets healthier. They get everybody back, and same thing with Green Bay. They get some players back. But I mean, like, I would just rather have the top 8 teams in the NFC, top 8 teams in the AFC go at it. And if you wanted to have this stupid Monday night thing or whatever it is, you can still have 2 games on Monday night or something like that. Whatever you want to do, whatever. You got 3 Saturday, 3 Sunday, 2 Monday, or something like that. But either way, I just don't. I mean, I get some of these matchups don't look good on paper or whatever it is when you see the final score, but it's not all the 2-7 game blowouts. I think it's definitely a small sample size. Maybe next couple of years they get a better gauge on things and see it differently or whatever it is, and maybe they can try to go from there. But I don't think they're going to go away from at least 7. I think the more teams that they can fit in at the end of the game or at the end of the season, the games are worth, like, they're on the line or whatever it is. You're trying to fight for seeding or something like that, whether it's the 1 seed or you're trying to get in as a 7 seed. Like, I think it's going to be intriguing for people to watch. So
okay, so it's here to stay, and I think I touched on this earlier. Now the blowouts did happen, unfortunately, which is surprising, but you know what? To be honest with you, I'm really comparing this to Thursday Night Football. Thursday Night Football was hard. People were questioning it first. They had horrible matchups, and now the Thursday Night Football matchups have been really good consistently. So I really think that you just give the NFL time. That 7 seed is consistently going to be good, and they're, to be honest, Craig, they're probably going to go into your direction. Is we all know it's going to be 18 games. And if you have 18 games, you're going to have another playoff. You're going to have to. And maybe not, but I think they're going to trend towards it. And now I don't know if they're going to keep the bye. It would make sense if they got rid of it, because then it would just be, a tournament. Because I don't think nobody in the NBA gets a bye. It's just one.
Nobody in professional sports gets a bye.
Right. Except for football, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but football is also the only one and done.
Well,
Yeah.
If you consider Major League Soccer a professional sport, which
Oh yeah, it is a professional sport.
I mean it is. I'm just saying.
Out of the three majors,
The three
it's-
majors, I got you. Yeah.
it's the only one and done.
Goodbye. Well, they're cutting that. They're cutting that. So I think that eventually, Craig, you're gonna get your wish in a couple years, to be honest. Because I think if they go to 18, they're cutting that by. Because you're gonna need that Super Bowl 2-week window you have to have. And if you extend the playoff to one more team, then a first round team doesn't get a bye. Now you're gonna have teams saying, well, I don't know if I should get the first round bye. You get home field advantage start the playoffs. Of course, you're gonna want the first. I mean, of course, you're gonna want the number one seed. Of course, you're gonna want the number one seed. You get to play at home. You don't have to travel. So we'll see. I don't mind it. I don't think. I just think we have to grow accustomed to it. I think the competition in the NFL is gonna raise, and I think we'll be okay with it. We'll be okay. Listen, the NFL is killing right now in TV ratings and whatnot. They're gonna keep it, and it's okay. We get more football, whether it's good or bad. Now next year, we might have 6 close games, so it's good, the good and the bad, and unfortunately with the NFL, because it's one and done. If you have a bad day, you're done. Yeah.